Good afternoon. This is Nigel Moore. I'm part of the NIST MEP National Exportech team. I've been working with Exportech for the last 2.5 years and a total of 16 years with NIST MEP. So what I'm going to do this afternoon is just give a brief overview of the program. So what is Exportech? Exportech is a strategy and business development process that helps companies enter and expand into global markets. It's an intensive program to jumpstart international sales growth. And the key elements are it's a structured planning process with a group of 4 to 8 companies. That would be minimum of 4, maximum of 8 companies that we bring together in consortia. So we bring together CEOs, CFOs, marketing VPs of the company together to participate in the program, where it leads to a growth plan over a 10-week period. Plans are vetted by a panel of experienced exporters, and these are exporters that have been in business exporting for probably the last 5+ years and have maybe as much as 50% of their business is exporting. It combines 3 group workshops with individual coaching, and we bring coaches together to the program to help facilitate with the companies and help them do some of the heavy lifting to move them along to develop a final export plan. It's a C-level peer group and drives learning and action. One of the things that we find is that when CEOs come into the program, they really find the power in working with their peers in terms of developing best practices, lessons learned, mistakes made, and so forth, and allows them to really have a good collaboratory model with their peers. Connects companies with resources that facilitate the implementation, and increases return on investment from a go-to-market strategy for things like trade shows, trade missions, whether they be outgoing trade missions or reverse trade missions, and the commercial service Gold Key. Program timeline, as you can see on the presentation here, Session 1, Session 2, Session 3 represent the 3 days of the program. So 3 days over a 3-month period, with 4 to 5 weeks in between each session. Day 1 talks about the successful strategies and best practices for successful exporters and allows the companies to really understand the nuances of getting paid, logistics, doing the right kind of research to find the key markets to export to, and looking at what capacity they have within the manufacturing plant in terms of perhaps increased capacity, what that might look like with the MEP center helping them to potentially expand to take care of increased capacity, looking at export assistance in various manners with working with the likes of the U.S. Commercial Service, with banks, potentially Ex-Im Bank, in conjunction with your local bank, etc. In the morning, we talk about what is the value proposition of your product. So we talk about an elevator speech in terms of the receptivity of your product when taking it overseas. How do you differentiate yourself in terms of the value of that product versus what might be in existence in the country of origin in terms of competition? So we have an exercise that we do in the morning which talks about that elevator speech and looks at your existing, perhaps, website, collateral material, in terms of how do you differentiate yourself. So we go through that exercise. In the afternoon, we have what we like to affectionately call a speed dating process, where you will be broken up into companies where you will rotate around, talking with U.S. Commercial Service, a financial person that can help you through the nuances of getting paid, maybe some finance guarantees in terms of insurance of receivables, perhaps talking about letters of credit and other means of payment. Talking about logistics, how do you set things like Incoterms in place, looking at what might be the best form of transportation, whether that be ocean, whether that be air, whether that be any of the other types of logistical forms of transportation and getting the product overseas. Looking at research, what we do is we bring in graduate students from local university that can help you do some of the heavy lifting in terms of selecting the right country, which will look at things like tariff barriers, import duties, maybe looking at free trade countries versus countries where you would have to pay duties going in, looking at the right kinds of countries in terms of the products that are already being exported there and how that might affect you in terms of choosing that country in terms of your products. So we definitely have the resources to help you do that, because sometimes it's a little daunting in wading through all of the different websites where that information might exist. So that is basically the first day. In between the first day and the second day, we assign homework where your coach will work with you to help you determine what that target market selection might be, and then to do the market research to help you forward that decision-making process. The local university student will be helping you in that endeavor as well, and doing some of the heavy lifting in terms of wading through that research data. So basically, in between 4 and 5, there is probably 4 to 5 hours worth of homework that the coach works with you. And I like to affectionately call that coach is somewhat of a nag in terms of helping you and keeping you on target with that, because we all are creatures of habit in terms of leaving things to the last minute. So it helps you move forward and gets you to that session 2. Session 2 is a very customized program based on the company needs within the program. So basically, the 8 companies that are involved in the program would be surveyed at the end of that first day, and we would be looking for gaps that you might have in terms of additional information. It could be things like, how do I protect my intellectual property? So we would bring in an intellectual property attorney that could advise you there of how you get protected. Maybe you have a patented product. Maybe you have a product that you would like to patent. Maybe you have some other forms of intellectual property that you really would like to protect. Maybe you need more from a logistical standpoint. Or most of the time we see, okay, how do I find a distributor or a representative? So we would work with the U.S. Commercial Service and talking about how they implement their Gold Key program to help you vet the right kind of distributor or representative that they can do what I like to call a golden handshake with you in terms of the country that you want to export to. Looking at potentially the culture change, if you're maybe exporting to a non-English speaking country, maybe you need to have a page on your website that talks in the language and actually converts some of the cultural issues that there might be around your product and shows them to your potential audience there. Talking about maybe developing collateral material, service manuals, warranty language, and so forth that might need to be put into place for you to export to another country. So day 2, very customized to the audience, to the 8 companies that are participating in the program. Day 3, I always say, is where the rubber meets the road, and that is where the plan is presented to a panel of 3 to 4 experienced export companies. We normally invite a CEO of that company, or maybe international marketing vice president of that company, so they can talk about and review your plan that you will have put together between session 2 and 3. We provide you with a template that you can follow and develop that plan. So it's more like a business plan, only for export. And that plan is then forwarded to the 3 to 4 company heads who can review it prior to day 3, and then we have you present your plan, usually in a PowerPoint form, over about a 45-minute time frame, to that panel, and they are able to critique and advise and coach on the nuances of that plan, i.e. what might be and might not be realistic, what gaps they might see. You know, maybe you don't have quite enough marketing dollars to do what you're looking to do. They might advise you to adjust it accordingly. Or maybe look at it from a logistical standpoint in terms of implementation. So that is the 3 sessions over 3 days with, I'd say, 4 to 5 hours worth of homework in between session 1 and 2 and session 2 and 3. And as I said, each company is assigned a coach, and that coach is somewhat attached to your hip, and they will work with you on an ongoing basis to help facilitate your progress over the 3-month period. Any questions? Exportech has been in existence for 7 years. This is the program summary. There's been 106 programs completed in 29 states, and the number of companies participated is close to 600 companies today. Pretty robust program, and our goal here in New York State is to expand it to 30 states and beyond. Exportech client results, and it says NIST third-party impact survey. For any of you that have participated in a project with ITAC in the past, knows that the ITAC NIST MVP Center, 6 to 12 months after each project, has a third-party resource survey the clients to see what impact they had in terms of project. And that's where these impacts come from an Exportech standpoint. So they're not made up, they're not estimated. These are actual results that we get back from the companies that participate in the program. So average sales increase, retention of $770,000. Some more, some less, but on average, 770. Average cost savings and investment avoidance. And what we mean there in terms of that is that if a company had brought in individual consultants to deliver the same material, advice, coaching to the client companies, they would have cost them about $50,000 in total cost. So that's where we talk about investment avoidance. Average company increase in terms of jobs is 5 per company, and the total program impact to date is nearly $400 million in terms of sales and sales increase and retention. And export sales often are generated within 6 months of program completion. At this point, I'm asked many times, well, how many companies are actually exporting that go through the program? We have a much better retention rate today than we did 7 years ago, but overall the program 7 years is about 60%, and today it's probably closer to 70-75% of the companies export. So pretty high percentage. What distinguishes Exportech? It's a strategic export growth plan for each company. I always like to say it's not a training program, it's an execution program. It's an intensive structured process with workshops, planning tools, and a structured coaching process. Remember I said each company is assigned a coach, and that coach helps you through the nuances of best practices of exporting and helps you develop a plan that will incorporate those best practices. It's a connection to a wide range of local and national experts, concentration of resources, i.e. firepower all in one place. and they are local resources that we develop. It's not somebody that's flying in from out of town. Focused on 4 to 8 companies, so it is almost like a one-on-one process. It's a minimum of 4, maximum of 8 companies that participate in the program. It's innovative sessions, so we really avoid, I'm sure many of you have participated in, death by PowerPoint training sessions. Customized agenda with planned exercises on one-on-one consultations. The peer group model with accountability, action, learning, and networking. And the results are third-party verified. Target companies that we're looking for. New to export, so new to export would be a company that has never exported before, but they are looking to increase their business outside the 4 walls of the U.S. And we always say that 80% of the world's population is situated outside the U.S. So why just go over 20% of the market? Why not expand to 100% of the market? So, for instance, your product could be coming to the end of its life cycle here in the U.S., but there could be plenty of opportunities around the world where you might have an opportunity to take that end-of-cycle product to a less sophisticated country, perhaps. Or maybe you could take advantage of the seasonality of a product that you might have and taking advantage of southern versus northern hemisphere. So obviously when it's winter here, it's summer there, and vice versa. Moderate to reactive exporter, or as I like to call them, an accidental exporter. This is an exporter that is being reactive to inquiries that might be coming in via their website or phone calls or emails, whatever the case be, and they're reacting to an export situation. I always like to use the example where I came across a company that I was marketing to. This company makes pressure gauges that sit in pipelines, just measuring pressure. And I was presenting to this company one day, and the vice president of sales said to me, a year ago I got a call from a guy in Indonesia, and he said to me, hi, I just got fired by your competitor in terms of representing them, not because I did anything wrong, but because they're too large for me now, and I'm looking for a replacement company. I would like to represent you in Indonesia. And the guy said, well, what the heck? He did his due diligence, and he tried this company out. And 1 year later, he's doing $100,000 worth of business in Indonesia. Bearing in mind that this is a $2 million company, so $100,000 of increased business for a $2 million company is significant. And he looked at me and said, Nigel, do I know how to take this to the next level? I have no flipping idea. So Exportech would be a perfect program for him in terms of being able to successfully and strategically put a plan in place to proactively go after new business. Then you have the experienced exporter, where international sales maybe has grown 10 to 35%, but they want to become more proactive and get to that next level and develop a plan for maybe a new market entry or new region that they want to expand to. Another example is that we're working with a company that has now been through Exportech 4 times and just signed up for its 5th Exportech. And you would ask, well, why would a company go through Exportech so many times? And the president of the company always says, well, this gives me and my staff the opportunity, when I move to a new country, to have a clear and concise plan in place to enable us to successfully launch to that new country. Level of participation that we like to have CEO or owner of the company, and maybe a larger organization, perhaps VP, Director of International Sales, or VP, Director of Sales and Marketing. So we'd like to have C-suite participation, because as we always say, these types of programs are driven from the top. So we want commitment from the highest level in the company in terms of participation in the program. This is one of our largest Exportech success stories out of Oklahoma. Our Oklahoma sister organization has probably put on 10 to 12 Exportech. This happens to be one of their poster child in terms of success. As you can see, in 2008, their exports consisted of 8% in total revenue, and by mid-2009, it jumped to 51%. And by the end of 2009, exports were 60% of their total revenue. And this was as a result of participating in Exportech. Additional Exportech client successes and testimonials here. The company in the middle on the bottom, LaRue Electronics out of Van Nuys, California, extremely successful, looking at a 46% increase in sales and more than 25% of their gross revenue now comes from international business. The president's company has participated in trade missions with Secretary of Commerce Pritzker, and he now sits on one of her manufacturing councils. Company in the bottom right, Recluse Motorsports, very successful out of Boise, Idaho, and they were the U.S. Small Exporter of the Year. They manufacture gears for small dirt-type bikes, very successful. I won't go through the rest. You can read those yourself. Thank you very, very much for your time today. Does anybody have any questions? Thank you very much for your time.